What's up, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of On the Bluff. I'm your host, Christian Fowler. Joining me, as always, my co-host, Gabe Kuhn. We are back after a week off for Memorial Day. Gabe, did you miss me?
Of course I missed you, brother. What are we talking about? But I did get to see you this weekend.
That's true.
You were at Italian Fest.
So
And you were just walking around. If you would have just told me, I go every year. I have good friends who have a tent. So if you come back next year, we'll get you in a tent because you were just wandering.
Yeah, which was fine. We had a good time.
I saw you had a buddy who bought some art from a local vendor.
Yeah.
That was something. And you want to know the best part, what made my weekend? Kenny, you'll appreciate this from behind the scenes here too.
Yep.
I got to meet the one, the only Anna Ruth. Just made my weekend, man. I got to meet the better half of Christian Fowler.
Yeah, you basically did not care to see me at all.
And I didn't care. Didn't care. And you know how I knew you were there is I had a buddy who watches the podcast all the time for like Tiger basketball news. And he's like, Christian, I think he's here. And I'm like, what did he look like? And he goes, he got the goatee. He was wearing short shorts and he had a leg tat. And I'm like, defining features. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that would be Christian Fowler. And I texted you, called you, and we played a little bit of tag for a while.
Yeah, we finally figured it out. You did. You got to meet Anna Ruth. Finally, she was very excited because I was like, I don't know if I can find him because I ended up calling you back, couldn't get you, and everybody was ready to leave. So I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to track him down. And then I told her, and she was like, "Come on, let's go find him." And she was like, "I'm not gonna not meet him since we're here." So she was excited. But yeah, we had a good time at Italian Fest. That's the first time any of us had been.
Yeah, I was a couple of Hewling Station bourbons in. I was trying to show you where I was. It's hard to even if you're like, yeah, I'm at tent 40, unless you have like a thing right in front of you, it's hard to really place where you're at.
And then you sent me a video
of where the stage was.
Just not even.
I tried. You figured it out though.
Yeah, it was a good effort. But I was looking at this video, like there's no defining feature in this video that's gonna give it away. I was like, there's a white picket fence, and I start looking around, and there's white picket fences in front of like every tent. So there's no defining feature. But ultimately, we figured it out. Did get to see Gabe this weekend. Hadn't seen each other in person in a minute now.
Wow.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, for sure.
What about the rest of your weekend? How long did you end up staying? Because we bounced at like 9:30.
I ended up leaving way later than I wanted to on Friday night. I didn't go Saturday night. I watched the fights on Saturday night, which we'll get to in the Hot Three. Dustin Poirier likely is done, although he kind of left the door open, which I was surprised about. So I watched those on Saturday, and then on Sunday I had a good amount of fun. I went to the Distinguished Citizen dinner. It was the award. The award was given out for Distinguished Citizen by the AutoZone Liberty Bowl, and Joe Theismann won it this year. So got to sort of see a Q&A, sat through the live auction that they do to benefit St. Jude. It was really cool night.
That was Sunday?
Yeah, that was on Sunday. Got some nice short ribs in me. They had a good little dinner for us. It was very enjoyable. It was quite enjoyable. Went with Taylor. Taylor even had a good time listening to Joe Theismann talk, which I didn't quite expect, but he's lively, he's animated, and he has some good things to say.
Yeah, sounds like a pretty.
Your Italian Fest. And then UFC. That's what I can surmise.
Pretty much same for me. Italian Fest Friday night. Saturday we had an engagement party for some of Anna Ruth's family friends. Did that. Went straight from there to my friend's house. Watched the fights. Was severely disappointed because I had a decent amount of money on Dustin Poirier. Not that I expected him to win. I know it was long odds, but I got a little excited in the fourth round. I had 50 on him to pay like $260. So I was a little disappointed.
I bet on him knowing like, okay, he's probably not going to win, but being that it was seemingly going to be his last fight.
Right.
It's like he's one of my favorite fighters ever.
Me too.
Like I think my top two really like Kevin Holland and him. Obviously, completely different personalities. I like them for completely different reasons. But like, he's definitely top 2 favorite fighters. So it's like, if this is going to be his last hurrah, let me throw some scratch out there. But now he's keeping the door open. I feel kind of, if he fights again, I feel kind of deceived. Run amok.
I could. I mean, he is my, like, since I got into UFC, whatever it's been now, like 5 years ago, he's been my favorite. So there was no way I couldn't put a little bit on him. Potentially, probably last title fight, if not last overall fight. So I had to put a little bit on him. It was one of those where the hands were shaking for 4.5 rounds. Talk about it a little bit later. And then Sunday, kind of the norm. Went to church in the morning. Went and ate lunch with Anna Ruth's grandma, as we do every Sunday, and then we went to some of our friends' house and chilled by the pool for the rest of the Sunday. So it was a solid weekend.
There you go. Well done. Well done.
Weekend.
Yeah, it sounds like both of us. Time well spent.
Yeah,
time well spent.
You ready to segue us in? Let's not wait.
You want me to do the segue?
Dude, I like when you do it. It fires me
I'll
up.
try. It's David Jones. I know it's old news, but we have to hop into the David Jones conversation. He ends up staying in the NBA draft, and he went up to, what was it, like 3 p.m. when the deadline was at 10:59 Central Time to either stay in the draft or come back to Memphis. He got, there was an announcement at about 3 p.m. from Jonathan Givony that he was going to stay in the draft. And then we had Hitman Hoops, and we had Parth at the Daily Memphian, like trying to hold out hope, saying it's not over until it's over. But ultimately, if you get that from Jonathan Givony, that shout that he's staying in the NBA draft, regardless how early in the day it is, he's probably going to. But this definitely leaves something behind. What do you think of the decision, first of all? That's what I want to start with. What do you think about the decision for David Jones?
I've kind of been on the fence about this since the conversation was brought up several months ago, because you look at it from the University of Memphis, Penny Hardaway, Memphis fan perspective. It's like, okay, it 100% makes more sense for him to come back. He can make more money here. He can be a star here. He can continue, building on what he did last year, all these different things. And yeah, absolutely. I get that. Would he have made more money at Memphis? Yes. Would he have more minutes? Would he have more star power at Memphis? Absolutely. But for him, and this is kind of where it deviates, the dream for anyone that plays collegiate sports, high school, any kind of organized sports, is to make it to the professional level. And if you feel like this is your best opportunity, which I think you can make a strong argument that it is, based more than anything off of his age, I don't think he was going to boost his draft stock this year, even if he had a similar performance to last year, then it does make sense for him. Like, if this is his ceiling, if he's not going to be any higher than like a fringe late second round undrafted guy, what's really the point in waiting another year? Clearly money was not the deciding factor for him. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago when Drew Hill, I believe, Drew Hill
at the Daily Memphian.
At the Daily Memphian, wrote an article about him and had quotes from David Jones saying, it's not about the money, it's about following my dream, playing in the league. And I feel like that was really the switch when we heard those comments. It was kind of like, okay, this is there's a bigger discrepancy in this decision between fan base and what David Jones was actually feeling than we may have thought. And from there, it kind of trended in the direction of him staying in the draft. And I don't blame him. Capitalize on the opportunities that you get. You never know what happens if you come back. Like I said, the ceiling is not going to get that much higher, but an injury happens or, performance falls off and then he's not even on NBA draft radars. Like, this was, if that's his dream, which we know it is, it was the time to capitalize on it. I don't think anybody can fault him for it.
It was the best opportunity he was going to have. I've come to realize that. Like, even if he came back for another year, he can improve on some things, but how much improvement would he have in the energy department or the defensive side? Like, how much improvement would he have to nullify the year lost, being 24 now instead of 23? Like, how much would he had to improve to really put himself in a higher stock? So I think if he would have come back, the production wouldn't have been as high. The 38% from three, like, that's hard to replicate.
Right.
There's not another season we can look back on in David Jones' career that tells you he's going to shoot that high of a percentage from three again. So I think this was strike while the iron is hottest. Now, I'll say this from a decision standpoint, and I think everybody, obviously David's the ultimate one who made this decision, so it was his decision to make. But I think if you feel like this was a misguided decision, I'm not gonna fully blame you for that thought. Because if you go into this thought process with, monetary concerns, if your decision was based on money, then without a question, this was a bad decision for David. Yeah. Like, there's no doubt about it. He'd about 750 to $1 million. He comes back to Memphis. Now he's going to get, I don't know, peak probably $400,000 for a year on a two-way and maybe play a couple of games in the NBA. So if this is purely based on monetary reasons, you're going to think that he made a bad decision. But if you just sort of read through it, I think he has something to fall back on if this doesn't work out. He can play overseas. Hell, we just saw DeAndre Williams win a championship in Taiwan for the T1 League. Yep. So there's going to be opportunities for him elsewhere in basketball. So if it doesn't work out in the NBA, he can just fall back to that. And it's not the worst thing in the world. He's just going to miss out on a few extra dollars. But he said, to Drew Hill, I think it was almost, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but it was very close to something like this. He said, if I wanted to just chase the money, I would have never gone into the NBA draft, even tested the waters, because he knows he's going to make more. He would have made more at the University of Memphis. Now, when it comes to what he also told Drew Hill is, like, you aim for a two-way contract at the least. And that's what would have kept him in the NBA draft. I sure as hell hope he has that promise. Yeah. I really do. Because if he made this decision to jump at like a summer league opportunity or to be in the G League for a couple of years trying to get to the NBA, I do think that is a tough decision even for his career. Yeah. Because I think even if he would have come back to Memphis, he could get that opportunity. He could find a summer league spot somewhere just based on past production, even if this year wouldn't have gone great at Memphis. So I hope he has that promise, or else I'm going to feel pretty distinctly different about this decision, even on the chase your dream front, if you will.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all there. So let's not stay on this for too long, since it is a little bit of old news, but there is some more recent news surrounding David Jones and comments or lack thereof made about him by his former coach in Penny Hardaway at the AutoZone Liberty Bowl Golf Classic, which was at Southwind. Penny spoke to reporters and did not really want to talk about David Jones or too much about, really the team at all, which it's the summer, so somewhat understandable, but he didn't have any comments on David Jones, if that tells you anything.
What made me laugh is the second question of the day was posed by Jason Munns of the Commercial Appeal. And Jason just goes, "How have you been?" He goes, "I have no comment on that." It's like, no comment on how have you been? That's strange. But he went into a little bit longer and said, "I'm just keeping my head down and grinding." But then I think the distinct one there, relaying it to our first conversation, he was asked about David Jones. He said, "I don't have a comment on David right now." And you know how easy it is to just say, "I wish David the best. I would have loved him to be back here from Memphis, but I wish him the best in his future endeavors." You know how easy and painless that would have been? But when he says no comment to something like that, that's a comment in itself to me, where it's like, it leaves open speculation about not necessarily like full on bad blood, but like, is there something going on there? Was there a disconnect? Do you feel spurned? Like, that struck me. It really did.
Yeah. It immediately kind of sends some alarms off when you're asked about a former player now that had such a successful year. And like you said, you would think you would be complimentary of him, as we appreciate what he did for this university for the loan season that he was here.
Then we wouldn't be talking about it too if he says that.
No, not at all. And that's the biggest thing about this. Like, if you're trying to, like you said, limit speculation or just limit discussion about a comment or not making a comment, all you have to say, even if something did happen behind the scenes, and maybe Penny was told that he was coming back and whatever, what we could speculate all day about what happened, but regardless of all that, all you've got to say is, we appreciate the time that he was here. We appreciate the contributions that he made here last year, and wish him luck at the next level. That's literally it. That's
Simple.
all you have to say. And then this isn't a conversation you don't have surrounding speculation about that relationship and if it's broken or what happened that led to that. Could it be as simple as Penny just didn't want to talk about it? Yeah, I guess so, but it just it leaves the door wide open to make comments about and speculate about and to have an opinion on. And if he says something and shuts it down, you can't really say anything else.
And I'll say this just as a general rule about people's camps, and like if you're taking information, as if you're Penny Hardaway or Rick Stansberry and you're in those coaching positions and you're trying to get intel and understand what's going on with certain players, well, it could be on the recruiting trail in high school, it could be on the transfer portal. I bet it does get annoying because Penny was positive about this whole thing. I don't think he says 70-30 he's coming back to Memphis unless he was getting fed some information from somebody close to David about, hey, it's very possible he comes back, set aside the money, deal with that way. But I think as a general rule, when you're dealing with like recruiting guys or retaining guys and the people around them, feeding you all these positive bits of information and you feel positive about something, sometimes you could feel led astray on the back end. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's what happened with David Jones, because I don't think he pulled 70-30 out of his rear end. I don't think he ever did that. I think that was somebody telling him, probably close to David Jones, hey, you should feel pretty good about this. You should feel good about David coming back. You measured at 6'3.5". He's not been playing well. Don't know if we're going to get a guaranteed contract, that type of thing. So I could see where Penny took all those positive bits of information from that one person, couple people close to David Jones, felt a certain way, tried to build the roster a certain way, and then it blows up in his face and he feels a type of way about how that all unfolded.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree.
That wouldn't surprise me.
No, not at all. And then so I got the quote that he had to Jason, like you said, when Jason asked how he was doing, Jason actually tweeted it out and said, I don't have it. So he asked him, like you said, how's he's been since the season, and he says, I don't have any comment about that, bro. I'm just going to keep my head to the ground and just keep grinding. That's all I have for everybody in town. It's just I don't know. It's just a strange comment, and I get it. It's the off season, you're on a golf course, but like Penny's had press conferences on the golf course.
I'm going to hit you with that next time we start this. Next time we start up the pod, you're going to be like, "Hey, how was your weekend?" I'm be like, "I have no comment on that right now. I'm just trying to keep my head down and grind." That's going to be my copy and paste answer for the first 5 minutes of the show every time now.
It's just
it's strange. It's weird, but I think my big takeaway from the entire press availability for Penny, it's either he just wanted to get on the damn golf course and put all that shit behind him, or he may be turning a new leaf of like, I'm not gonna give you guys as much as I have in the past.
Yeah.
He knows it's more pressurized. He knows that next year has to be good. So I wonder if he's just gonna maybe turn over a new leaf with the media. That's a maybe, because I don't actually buy that. I think it's more he just wanted to get on the golf course and he was just
didn't want to
7:30 a.m. Can you guys just bug off this one time? I don't want to deal with you. That's sort of what it felt like.
And hey, like that I understand, but it is what you signed up for.
And also, he's done it every year before the AutoZone Liberty Bowl Golf Classic. Like every year, the media goes and meets him for a little presser. Just how it works. I mean, he lets it be an availability every year at the same time.
Yeah,
I mean, you could have gotten ahead of it and said, tomorrow. Can we'll delay this interview you want, this presser you want to do with me. Let's just delay this till another day. Let's do it a week later. But I don't think the media wants more from him than that. The media, like, it's a reciprocated thing here. And I know that Penny seems to sometimes blame the media. He has blamed the media for his problems in the past, which I always have disagreed with. But I think that getting into year 7, maybe there's a little bit of strain there for him and how he's done things in the past and how he wants things to go differently. So I don't know what to make of it. I just think just don't do availability if you're going to, if it's 7:30 in the morning, you just want to play golf. I'm sure people would understand if you just said, we're not doing it today.
Not today. Yeah. I don't disagree. Well, let's switch gears a little bit with David Jones now. Officially out of the fold, Memphis has kind of turn their attention to a different player, and that is Kansas State forward Arthur Kaluma. Memphis is reportedly in the lead for Arthur at the moment. 14 points, 7 rebounds last year at Kansas State. What do you think about Arthur Kaluma and what he could potentially bring to Memphis, Gabe?
I think the fit is it's perfect. I think he's got a 7'1" wingspan.
Yeah.
So that's measured. And I think he is a full 6'6", 6'7", unlike David Jones. You may lose a little bit on the offensive end because he's not overly efficient, but he can score 14 points per game. And he was 35% from 3 last year, even though that was a peak year. But he can get to the rim, pretty athletic, decent in the mid-range. I like that. But on the defensive end with that 7'1" wingspan, I think he has whatever you're losing from David Jones on the offensive end, you can make up on the defensive end with a guy like Arthur Kaluma. But when we talk about the reasons he'll be attracted here, I think he's still close with Naquan Tomlin because of their Kansas State days. So I think that may sort of help if Naquan's in his ear, yeah, dude, Penny's got your best interest at heart. Right. Come on down, that type of thing. I also think that generally the fit is seamless and he'll have opportunity. But then also about all the NIL money that was going to David Jones can go straight to him.
Yeah.
I don't think Penny wants to split that up any way, shape, or form. I think he just sort of wants to, hey, let's go find this replacement. Let's throw it down, get this out of the way. Hopefully we can get it done soon. And
I almost like this better than David Jones coming back.
Okay. I've heard the case made for this, and I get it.
Yeah, and obviously you don't have the scoring upside, you don't have the offensive upside, but what we've been preaching all offseason is it doesn't have to be the biggest names in college basketball, and it doesn't have to be a one-man superstar show. And you insert him into what this potential starting lineup looks like, and you go, okay, this is a player that's averaged 10-plus points in 3 seasons at Kansas State. Throughout the success that they've had in that time, which has been a little bit up and down, but obviously the Elite 8 run that they made 2 years ago, he was a solid role in that. He's not someone you hear about because that team was so loaded, but he still averaged 12 points per game and 6 rebounds per game on that Elite 8 team. Defensive upside, ability to score, obviously ability to rebound as Kansas State's leading rebounder last year, 2 assists per game. He does a little bit of everything, and he does everything pretty well. And you talk about unselfish defense, all these different things that we've preached about for Penny and the staff to get in this class and on this team for next season. And Arthur Kaluma fits all that pretty perfectly. And then you don't have to worry about, well, how do PJ Haggerty and how do PJ Haggerty and David Jones mesh? Does that clash? Are they able to work that out? Yeah, you do have your true PJ Haggerty being your true number one at this point. If you land Arthur Kaluma, he is the number one, and everybody else can kind of fall into rotation on that. With Tyrese Hunter, Kobe Rogers, all these different guys. And so, but I don't know how much of a difference it makes. I'm not going to say Memphis is 10, 15 spots better with Arthur Kaluma than David Jones, because I really don't know. I think this team could work either way. But to me, from what we saw last season, from what this team is being built by and for, Arthur Kaluma seems to be a perfect fit to me.
Yeah, I think he's a good fit, and I think Hitman Hoops put out that Arthur Kaluma to its roster would move Memphis up 9 spots from number 32 to 23 in the country per Part Torvik. So he makes a difference. He makes you shoot up a fair amount because you don't have David Jones, and there was the assumption that he'd be a part of this team, and you get a good replacement, a solid offensive replacement, and an even better defensive replacement. Now, I want to pose this to you. And this is the cynic in me, right? And I think there's a lot of cynics in this fan base based on past results. Why did he transfer from Creighton to Kansas State a year after being right there on the precipice of the Final Four when he was the 3rd leading scorer, 3rd leading shot getter? He still had 9 shots per game. I think most of the conversation around it last year was he wanted to get more opportunity. He wanted to be sort of the lead guy for a team. and he goes to Kansas State, and obviously they lost a lot of guys, but they didn't make the tournament this year. It's strange to think about like that dynamic, why he left Creighton, went to Kansas State. He probably wanted more onus on the offense. He got it, but then that team didn't have as much success on the back end. I don't know if he's like, I don't know. I just don't know if it's like when he comes here, what does he think his opportunity is? Does he think he's going to get 20 shots per game like David Jones did? Or does he realize he's going to have to defer a little bit like he did at Creighton with like PJ Haggerty and Tyrese Hunter and all these guys on the roster? Because that's something you have to work through.
Yeah, that's a great question because you don't know until.
And this is just me being as cynical as possible. This is like pure like devil's advocate.
Yeah, and I mean it's fair because you never know. Like we're not sitting down with this guy. We're not behind the scenes with Arthur Kaluma, so we don't know exactly like how he feels about potential roles at his next stop or whatever else, whatever the case may be. So it's a fair point. Like, could he expect to be tabbed as the superstar from day one? Yeah, it's not unfair.
He's gonna be if he gets here, he's being paid superstar money. I can tell you that.
Yeah,
there's no doubt.
So I mean, it's fair to wonder, and I guess at that point you can turn it around onto PJ Haggerty and say, well, did PJ Haggerty come to Memphis believing that David Jones was going to come back and he wasn't going to be the number one guy anyway? And I think that's kind of the flip side to that. If he was already expecting to potentially be the number two guy, and that's what you have to do to make Arthur Kaluma happy, or if he's fine, playing in kind of a sidekick role or a 1A 1B role with PJ Haggerty, then I think that's the best option. I think if they're 1A 1B, I think that's the best way to go. But of course, there's always going to be egos involved. There's always going to be potential speed bumps for really good players going to different places. So it's a fair question, but it's kind of a
and honestly, like with all the locker room strife and like internal issues that Penny Hardaway teams have seen in the past, like Arthur Kaluma is not at the top of my worry list. I'll say that. Even with my question about him from Creighton to Kansas State, like there's been worse locker room issues that this team's had to deal with.
Yeah.
In the past. So I don't know how high on that list it would be for me in the Penny Hardaway era. But just something to pay attention to, just something to, take note of. Because other than that, I think that we're going to have nothing but positives to say about Arthur Kaluma potentially being added to this team because the skill set's great, seamless fit. You have the NIL money, and he's the best on the market that you could get in that position right now.
Yeah. Don't disagree at all. Gabe, is there any more Memphis news we need to talk about? It is kind of one of those light times right now. Not really anything going on with football, basketball. That's about all we got. So is that it for the
Grizzlies number 9. It's draft month. It's draft month. What do we think? Dalton Connect was in the ESPN mock lately.
Still there. I'm still gonna stick. I feel like I've said this.
They're gonna trade that damn pick, man.
I know.
Let's be honest.
I know.
They ain't picking at number 9. I don't buy it.
I'm just saying if they do, that's who I'm sticking with.
Yeah,
but
I'm with you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it for the Memphis news. It is if you're not familiar with the world, it is June, so it's not a heavy. It's not a heavy
talk baseball. You want to talk some baseball?
No, I don't. I definitely don't. That's not going to happen. If Gabe's going to bring up baseball, then what we are going to do is we are going to take a quick break. And on the other side of that break, we're going to hear from our producer, Kenny Stubblefield, who will have the Hot 3 ready for us.
This has turned into unrealistic expectations for teams. Not every team is ready to win a championship. There are steps you got to take to put yourself in position to win it. And I thought that what they had done in Cleveland had become a team that was muddled in nothing. And JB, I thought they created a little bit of a culture. You were able to find a star player. I think it's tough. I go back to what happened with Adrian Griffin in Milwaukee. I mean, you got the second best record in the NBA, and they say, well, we don't know if you're the one to get us over the top. Yeah, but the guy you bring in is only 5-6 games over 500 from that point on. You would hope that realistic expectations start to come back into the fold, other than these unrealistic things that it's going to happen. Winning a championship happens just like that, because it doesn't happen in that way at all.
Tune in to the Night Court podcast with your hosts, Rob Fisher and Brevin Knight, on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
We're looking at making sure that the Grizzlies are top 5 in either offense or defense. So how do you get a team like that there? What are your must-haves to be a real title contender? So give me one.
Health.
Okay.
I think it's like it goes like a little bit sort of in the cliche obvious department. You got to be healthy, which we saw like the direct results of what happens when you're not this year, right? Like It was a mess in 100 different ways. So there you go. Number 1. I've got plenty more loaded for you.
All right. Mine is going to be good kitty. No, I'm kidding.
First off,
bad kitty.
Pause. Pause.
Come hang out with Daniel Greer and Nathan Qualls on Grizz 901 Live. Every Tuesday night at 9:01 live on the Bluff City Media YouTube channel.
What up, boys?
What up, Kenny? How's it
good.
going? The screen's a little wonky, brother. I don't mean to do this to you.
Oh God, what's going on? Hold
You know
on.
what I mean, come on.
Oh, I hit the wrong. There we go.
Yeah, the right overlay.
See, here's the thing.
It needs that.
I thought I had the transition back from the commercial down pat. I was ready to go, and clearly,
Well, we got there. We got there, man. Better late than never.
It takes a team,
I
man.
do think never late is better.
Never late is better.
Never late is better, but it's always
Never late is better than
never.
better late than never. I like that. You're right. That's a bar, dude. That's a bar.
Right. What you got for us, brother?
Y'all ready to get to the hot 3?
Yes, sir.
So before the break, Gabe started to introduce baseball into the conversation, and Christian immediately vamped.
Yep.
So we're going to introduce another topic that Christian loves to talk about, and that's the WNBA. This has been a pretty crazy. It has been wild to me, and I just want to. I'm going to lay it up to y'all. I just want to hear where y'all have to go with this, but like, it is just the whole conversation about the WNBA season has been about Caitlin Clark and how she's being bullied and being picked on by players and coaches in the WNBA, and how I've heard so many times she's the cash cow. Why are you doing this to her? You know, this kind of stuff. Is this not the lamest thing you've ever heard, or am I wrong on this? What are y'all's thoughts on this whole?
I
Caitlin
think you're
Clark?
a little bit wrong. Like, the conversation's annoying. I can totally give you that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. But let's get real, man. Like, you saw the Trinity Carter cheap shot that Caitlin Clark took.
It happens 25 times a game in the NBA. What are we talking about?
That?
Not that.
That wasn't a basketball play at all.
That
That
happens
was a Draymond
25
Green
times.
flagrant foul is what it was, and they didn't even call it a flagrant.
She hip checked
and then
her.
also you have like Angel Reese after the game, like not she stood up off the bench when Trinity Carter did that and started clapping. Then she didn't own it after the game. And then today, it's Monday when we record this, she got up to the podium and she's like, WNBA basketball is more than one woman, and I want you to know that I've helped grow this game too. Period. And it's like, oh my God. Like, yeah, you did, Angel. But like, there's a pie chart for all of these things, okay? You had 10% of the help of the growth that we've seen this year for the WNBA. But Caitlin Clark, she might have the other 90%. That's the truth of it.
Okay, but what does that?
I'm not saying they have to kiss her ass.
What does that have to do with the play on the court?
What I am saying is there's a ridiculous amount of jealousy and hate from inside the WNBA aimed at Caitlin Clark, and it's obvious. And I'm tired of the sanctimony about it. I really am, because I feel like there's a lot of media members that try to act like there's not, and it's so apparent. It's so apparent.
I agree. I agree. I agree with Gabe on it.
Crazy, y'all are crazy.
No, I mean,
So crazy.
I mean,
They don't have to kiss her ass, but she's been hated on, and it's fine.
Right.
Because she gets bumped around in a game?
No, because Cheryl Reeve, who is the coach for the damn Minnesota Lynx, and she's also the player personnel person. There was like a WNBA post about Caitlin Clark's first preseason game, and she puts a hashtag, the W is more than one player, on like that post. And it's like, would you get over your damn self? You guys are like, it's I think that some of this will breed better ratings, because I think a healthy sports hate is good.
Right.
But the jealousy is goofy, and I'm tired, and you might be one of them, Kenny, here, that's doing this. I'm tired of the sanctimony. She has been hated on, and there has been jealousy toward her, and it is very obvious. It's painfully obvious, and denying it is not helping the situation at all.
Listen, I feel that, I could expect this from Christian Fowler, okay? The little bleeding heart liberal that he is. But you
I call it how it is, Kenny. I pride myself on it.
As a former D1 athlete, a pro football player, to sit here and pretend like physical play on the court is them hating on her is insanity.
But it's the words they use off the court too, Kenny.
Yeah,
I said it.
I agree, because if it was the on the court stuff, it was the fouling and all that, like, okay, whatever. You could probably read into it a little bit, but the comments kind of speak for themselves. Like Trinity Carter gets on the podium and goes, I ain't answering no Caitlin Clark questions. Like,
then she takes the threads and says, besides 3-point shooting, what does she bring to the table?
Right.
Like, come on. She was a rookie of the month, I think, this year.
Right.
It's hate. And
it's hate. Yeah. It's hate, because every time one of them gets on Instagram or Twitter or any social media platform, that's what they see is Caitlin Clark. And they're probably like, this isn't fair. We're doing, whatever and whatever also. But Caitlin Clark has brought an absurd amount of people to women's basketball over the last 2 years. And not that people should be catering to her, because I don't think
you don't have to kiss her ass.
No, that's whatever. That's not, you can't do that. But to go the opposite direction and hate on her, like whether it's on social media or in post-game press conferences, is wild, because they all know in the back of their head, even if they don't want to admit it, that she has helped all of them tremendously. So,
but like also going back to the Minnesota Lynx coach Cheryl Reeve, a coach, hopping on social media to say the W's more than one player. Watch us tonight instead of watching the Fever.
Right.
Like, God, I can't think of anything. Like, you're trying to hamstring yourself. You're shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
It just looks, it's weird. The jealousy is a goofy look. The sports hate's fine. I'm sorry, Kenny. I think you're part of this group. I need you to admit. I need you to get through here, because it's just painfully obvious. There is a jealousy that has gone with Caitlin Clark joining the league that has bred some hate within the WNBA. There is some vitriol there. There is a level of anger that they have about the platform she already has as a rookie.
Do you hold? All right, so let's go in this direction then. Draymond Green was in the was on Inside the NBA this last series, the Dallas Mavericks versus the Minnesota Timberwolves, and every opportunity that he got, he shat all over Rudy Gobert. Every opportunity. It was insane, right? Like, did y'all hear? I mean, dude, the stuff that he said. Is that? Do you put that on the same? Are those two things comparable, or is this different because of who Caitlin Clark is compared to the overall success and how famous she is and what the eyes that she's bringing to the equation with the WNBA?
I mean,
those two things.
The only thing I'll say is, like, Draymond is an interesting example because he just shits on everybody.
That's kind of his thing.
You know what I mean?
I don't hear him go that personal with people. He went like multiple days in a row.
Nurkic. I mean, he's done it with everybody.
He did it with Yusuf. That's true.
Yeah. This is a lot of people.
Isn't that a part of the game, though? Like, isn't that a part of it? Like, there is legitimate. These competitors they don't have to like each other.
No,
they don't like each other.
They don't have to like each other. But, like, I don't know. There should be equal opportunity hating And I feel like most of the hate is like at Caitlin, and it's like, has she done anything wrong? Like, you may not think she's the talent that we all think she is, sure.
Oh, I think
she's done anything wrong. I think she's only done mostly positive for the growing of the game of women's basketball. And really, the attention she gets is not her fault. Like, that's not her fault. It's just a testament to who she has been. And I don't know. I just think it's not aimed correctly, if you get what I mean. Like, I just think you can go after her, you can give her a welcome to the WNBA moment. But the Trinity Carter, she's like, you bitch, and then checking her.
Yeah.
Then Angel Reese is like, I did some of this too. It's like that. You're literally telling us you're jealous of the attention she's getting.
Well, I'm sure she is, and I think that's a natural thing. Let me ask you this. Let me.
Yeah, but also, is it a good look? It's not a good look.
No, it's probably not a good look. It's not a good look, but who cares? I mean, it's
like,
part
this
of,
happened with LeBron in 03. I don't think it's that much different than LeBron in 03.
Absolutely.
Like,
his own teammates.
You had Cavs teammates like, we have guys that are better at the position than him on this team.
Right.
Like, no, fuck you don't.
No, you don't.
You want to be the first overall pick.
You absolutely do not have better players on the team. That's why you got the first pick in the draft.
So I think there's some of that, but it's just so overdone by some of these women in the WNBA. It's lame to me.
Do y'all think everything in sports is cyclical, right? Like, there's always eras come and eras go, but they kind of tend to like move in circles. Do y'all feel like the WNBA right now is in like the 1980s like time period of the NBA, where there's those like major, like there's those one or two players that build up the league, and those rivalries are so intense that it kind of
that's not the worst thought in the world. I want to see how this all goes, though.
Thanks,
I don't
Gabe.
know if I'm ready to.
I appreciate that.
It's not the worst thought in the world.
You're not a total dumbass.
I want to see how it continues to progress, though.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Christian, can I say one more thing before we go to the next thing? And I want to see if you agree with me here.
Okay.
For the most part, I don't mind them hating on Caitlin Clark. Go ahead and hate away. But I'd have to say this: if you watch the NBA, if you consume the WNBA, or if you watch the WNBA, consume the WNBA, or if you are a media member who talks about the WNBA, stop denying that she's being hated on. That is my biggest issue with everything that's going on. There's this ridiculous level of sanctimony where they're like, where's the hate that jealousy you're speaking of? It's like, it's right in front of your face. I can give you 15 examples off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Just acknowledge that she's being hated on, then we can get to the hate. And okay, we can sell games that way. But I'm tired of the media more so how they're covering it than I am about the actual hate itself.
Jamil Hill.
Okay.
We're not going to go there. We're not going to go there, but
that's much. That's a lot.
I agree.
All right, topic number 2. Let's get to the some really good basketball. NBA Finals preview coming up this week. It starts Dallas Mavericks versus the Boston Celtics. Okay, we're clearly not surprised that Boston is in the finals, right? Like, from the beginning of the year, it was thought Boston's probably going to be that team from coming out of the East. How surprised on a scale of 1 to 10 are you that Dallas is in the finals?
10 for you, right, Christian? 10?
I wouldn't say 10. I would say a strong 8. I would say a strong 8.
I'd say I'm up there. 8, 7, 8.
Yeah.
That series though with the Timberwolves, I know that you thought it was going to be really hard. They whooped ass.
Yeah.
That was impressive as hell. And again, I'll continue to say what I say about the Mavericks. Obviously, I think this is the tale of two different like conversations for each team. Mavs, I think the conversation sort of starts and ends with, you're never as far away as you think you are in the NBA. They got rid of Grant Williams because it didn't work out after signing him for $25 million a year this offseason. And they go get P.J. Washington, Daniel Gafford, draft Derek Lively, and here they are. They're right here in the NBA
Derek Jones Jr. They get Derek Jones Jr. in free agency.
But with the amount of parity in the NBA now, we're going to have 6 different champions in 6 different years. Yeah. Like, you're never that far away. And I think that's a good thing for the Grizzlies if we're relating it to the Grizzlies. You have your core. Like the Mavs had Kyrie and Luka. The Grizzlies have Ja, Jaren, Bane. Build around it, trial and error, figure it out. And I think the Nuggets had to do that last year as well. Yep. And then for the Celtics, I think the debate sort of starts and ends with, are they dominant or have they been gifted an easy road? I think it's somewhere in the middle, but I also think this team's been more dominant than people are giving credit for.
Yeah, but I mean, they have had, just call a spade a spade. They've had an incredibly easy journey to the Eastern Conference Finals.
No Jimmy Butler, no Donovan Mitchell, no
right.
You know,
so their run to the NBA Finals has been extremely easy. Have they been dominant? Yes. Yeah. Have they been dominant? Yes. But has it been against the best level of competition? No. So, like you said, somewhere in the middle there. But I mean, the coolest thing to me, once again, Gabe kind of hinted at it, like the parity in the NBA makes it so much more interesting this time of year. Like we're going to see some of the top superstars young superstars in the NBA. One of them, multiple of them are going to, fight for their first ring. Like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown on one side, Luka Doncic on the other. Like those guys are all vying for their first ring, and those are three top level superstars in the NBA. And to be able to see that rather than the same teams in it every year, like some of these young up and coming superstars are getting opportunities now and not given to them. That's not what I'm saying, but there's just the way that the NBA has been structured with the salary cap over the last couple of years and the luxury tax. Like we are seeing a game and kind of to Gabe's point, you're only a move or two away in the right direction from going to, a borderline playoff team, a middling playoff team, to a championship contender. It just takes adding the right subordinate pieces once you have your core intact. And that's, at least from a fan's perspective, that's so much more interesting than watching the same couple of teams every year. Even though it's cool to witness history, even though it's cool to witness super dominant players in their respective sports, it's even cooler when every year it's a crapshoot to who is going to be in that game playing for a championship, and to be able to see, some of the best young players in the NBA compete for their first ring is super cool. It's the best part about it.
Yeah, Adam Silver has tried for years to get NFL-like parity, and he has it. And it's undeniable at this point. Yeah. It's just so hard. Even if you find the great, like the Mavs, if they get through and win a championship with these pieces, you know how hard it is to keep those pieces when they do that? Like Daniel Gafford could walk off and go get $20 million next year if he has a good series or whatever the hell it is. It's just hard to keep those guys. You saw it last year with Bruce Brown and Jeff Green for the Nuggets. Same thing. Now, real quick, I'll tell you what. Let's make a pick. I'm going to make my pick before the series gets started.
Hold on. Before we do that, can I do it? Can we go in? I wanted to ask y'all this, but can we do it?
Okay, go ahead. Go first, and then we'll do picks.
Are you guys subscribers of the idea that the team in the NBA playoffs with the best player usually wins that series? Y'all subscribe to that?
No. Not really.
No, I
not when the other team has really good players too.
Yeah, it's there's so many of those upper echelon players that you're splitting hairs when you're saying this player is better than this player and they're going to win because of that guy.
Maybe this is a few eras ago, right? Like that theory of the best players. But I want y'all to rate for me the top 5 players in this series.
Luka, Jason Tatum, Kyrie Irving, Jaylen Brown.
Based on this
maybe
season,
Derek White might get 5th for me.
Okay.
Yeah, based on the season, based
on right now. Let's just go
based on right now going into the series. Who are the top 5 players in this series? In order.
I'd say the same, but maybe Kristaps.
The 5th would be interesting. That's where it's like Drew Holiday, Kristaps.
I'd say Porzingis at 5.
So it sounds like y'all have either one of y'all have 3 Celtics in the top 5 and 2. Would you have? Is PJ in there anywhere?
No.
PJ's not getting over KP or Derek White or Drew Holiday to me.
All right,
but
so with that,
been good.
Yeah, no, he's been fantastic for this team. I think honestly, PJ Washington has taken. That's been the biggest knock on Luka this entire career, is that he is an incredible talent, but his style of play and the front office fits that they put around him have never been a recipe.
Or that he's too high usage and he can't get his teammates involved as well as his stats show.
Yeah. And it's definitely felt like that has shifted with this PJ Washington deal, that Andrew Gafford, obviously, and Derek Lively.
Kyrie's been the best number 2 in these playoffs.
Bro, Kyrie's so freaking good. Oh my God.
He's ridiculous.
So good. Yeah. That's a low key storyline of Kyrie going back to Boston that I am really looking forward to.
And then, hey, Kristaps has to deal with the Mavs thing.
Yeah,
I mean, that's there too. But Kyrie to Boston's going to be oh my god.
Yeah. And just to give flowers, like Kyrie's been awesome. Yeah, but you could flip Kyrie and Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's been incredible,
dude. Jaylen Brown. True. Yeah,
I mean Jaylen Brown just won. He won the Eastern Conference Finals.
That's MVP. What I'm saying. Who's the real number one heading into the finals?
Right.
Can we figure this out?
All right, Gabe. So
who do you think? Yeah, predict it. Let's go.
I'll go first, I guess. Celtics in 6. I think they've been dominant. I truly think they've been dominant, and I think people see the Western Conference and how good it is, and I think they're doing a little bit in overrating the Mavs based on the teams they've gotten through. But when you look at the Celtics, they're 10-1 without their biggest offseason acquisition and Kristaps Porzingis in the playoffs. They're 4-0 in clutch scenarios. They even when they're down and they play like garbage, they can turn it on and get it going. And I want to point this out: playoff teams that start their playoff season, their postseason 12-2, they have an 80% hit rate to win the NBA championship. And then I think there's another stat here: they're 6-0 on the road, so they've been dominant on the road. Of the last 5 teams, they're one of them. But of the last 4 teams that have started their playoffs season 6-0 on the road, 3 of them have won championships. So I just think there's a level of dominance. Sure, they got helped by the draw and injuries. I think there's just a level of dominance that I don't think we're appreciating with this team this year. They've only lost 20 games all year, including the postseason. And it just feels like we discount their greatness, and I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, I agree, but I'll go Celtics in 7. I think Luka and Kyrie are going to have some of those games where it doesn't really matter who's on the other side. They're going to pull some out, but ultimately it's going to go back to Boston for 7, and I think Boston's going to win because that's just an environment that's tough to overcome, with a team that's tough to overcome, with perimeter defenders that are tough to overcome. Like I think it'll be really close. I think Dallas will be scrappy, but ultimately I think the Celtics will be just a little bit too much.
And one more point I want to make: 1 and 2, right, for each team. You know, you have Drew Holiday, Derek White on one side, Kyrie Irving and Luka on the other. Of course, the Mavs win that. Like, they win that battle 100 times out of 100. But then let's go 3 through 5. Derek Jones Jr. versus Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown whooping that tail. Jason Tatum versus PJ Washington. Jason Tatum's handling business there. And then Kristaps versus Daniel Gafford.
Right.
Kristaps is handling business there. And I think Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively can play good defense, but Kristaps stretches out the floor. It's something they really haven't seen all that much in these playoffs. So I don't know. I think that the depth of the starting 5 of the Celtics will wear on the starting 5 of the Mavs as you get deeper into the series. And I do think, Kyrie and Luka can go off. But of all the perimeter defenders I'd ever want on those 2 guys, Drew Holiday and Derek White aren't bad. Like, that's probably the best backcourt perimeter defending duo in the league. Like, I'd say. I mean, both all defensive guys.
Yeah, so. I agree.
Last thought.
It's going to be an awesome series. Let's review UFC 302 happened this weekend. All 3 of us had the chance to watch it, not together, unfortunately. One day we're going to make that happen where the 3 of us watch a fight card together.
Watch party maybe too.
Maybe we can do a watch party. But yeah, we were all in our separate spots watching the fights. Overall, the 302 card was, I think, marred by some weird judging stuff, but then also just a little bit boring. But the Islam Makhachev Dustin Poirier fight, I think, was the headliner for a reason, and it absolutely delivered. So what are your guys' thoughts, man? I know you guys are both Dustin Poirier fans, but what were your guys' thoughts about the fight?
Yeah, really the only other, to me, like, pop moment on the card was Kevin Holland winning by the armbar. That was wild. That was a pretty awesome moment. But it just, usually, like, when we have these pay-per-view cards, you kind of sit there through all the fights and are just like one after the other. Wow. And this one just didn't really have that. It wasn't a very deep card to begin with. Like, my expectations for this card weren't overly high. Like, Sean Strickland and Paulo Costa, on paper it sounds exciting, but when you dig into it, it's not. Paulo Costa has won 1 fight since 2019, and that was against Luke Rockhold. who had been out for like 3 years and was so gassed that
and still almost got beat by Luke Rockhold.
And he still almost won. And Sean Strickland is one of those like sometimes he's really fun to watch and sometimes he just kind of gets in that turtle shell and he's not as fun. He was active, but he's just not super exciting because he's not a knockout artist. He's kind of he's like the Colby Covington of 185. Like that's who he is.
It's interesting.
And I don't even
I actually find Colby more pleasing to watch than Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland to me had that rope-a-dope like shell game is just like not enjoyable to watch.
And he doesn't launch even when he feels like he'll give you a couple of combinations if he feels like you're wobbled, but he'll stop if he doesn't knock you down.
Right, but you know what I mean. Like both of them are not power punchers. They're more than likely not going to knock anybody out. Their cardio is absurd. Like they're never going to get tired. Very similar. So that fight was terrible. And then you had the main event, which really saved the whole card. Islam Makhachev, Dustin Poirier.
And Islam said it after the fight. He was like, I saved this card.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of fun. It was, there's nothing like a UFC pay-per-view main event. Like in sports, there's just nothing quite like it. Like, yes, the Super Bowl is awesome. Yes, all big sporting events are awesome, but nothing beats like the main event of a pay-per-view card. Like you said you disagree or you agree?
I agree. Like and also like Bruce Buffer belting it out too.
Oh, right.
Oh, come on.
I mean,
it's unbelievable.
How many thousands of times have we heard him do that? And it
doesn't get a hold.
I'm like, oh my god.
Hey, can I real quick though? I have 3 takeaways from this card. I have 3 quick takeaways. Then we'll revisit this. 1, Alex Morono is cooked. He needs to get cut probably. Yeah, like it's over for him. Nico Price got knocked out in the first round by Robbie Lawler, and Alex Morono just ran out of gas after the first round and just couldn't do anything. The judge, whoever the judge was who gave Paulo Costa the fight 49-46 needs to be working at a Walmart today. That is the most embarrassing scorecard I have ever seen in my entire life. That honestly, watching that fight, maybe 4-1 or maybe 4-1 Sean.
Yeah.
Most likely 5-0. 5-0. The way I had it.
Say 5-0.
But
I can't really think of anything he did. Yeah.
I don't know how you come close, because this judge would have had to have it 4-1 Costa. How? Like, how is that even possible? Dave outstruck him in every round.
Yeah, he literally did not land more strikes in any of the rounds. There were no takedowns. Dave Torelli is the judge's name, and that like we've seen some really bad judging mishaps.
Like that's he fixed that. He tried to fix it.
To me, that's the worst judging I've ever seen. Like when I heard that, I thought they read.
I had split decision. I was like, what? How's it even close to a split?
I thought they read the card wrong. Like when they said 49, when Bruce Buffer said 49-46 Costa, I was like, he said the wrong name.
But here's the thing about Dana. Dana will he'll fire him. I hope he does, because
Dana has zero power in that.
Really, he has none.
It's all about the state athletic commissions. The UFC has. If it was Dana White, like if it was the UFC, yes, he would be.
That guy shouldn't be employed.
Yeah, and I think that's stupid anyway. I don't think the state should have control of the judging. I think the UFC should be able to sanction their own judges. Like they're a big enough entity where they should sanction their own judges.
I disagree.
But I understand.
Yeah, because you could have some. Yeah, Dana slides you a nice $100,000 bonus to make sure.
I understand. I understand the reasoning behind it, but at the same time, some of these state athletic commission judges are so bad. Like Texas, if you watch a card in Texas, be prepared for terrible judging. It's gonna happen.
But that's like the worst I've ever seen.
Me too.
Like in any combat sport.
I agree.
There's no way you could see that that fight that way.
He moved backward for 100% of them.
I know, like even visibly he got his ass kicked. Not just by the cards.
No.
Visibly, it's like he has not moved forward once. He hasn't fought off his front foot the entire fight.
No,
I couldn't believe it. And then my final takeaway is Dustin did everything he could, brother.
Everything.
Islam is like that. He's Khabib.
No. I
No,
disagree.
he's better than Khabib.
He's better than Khabib.
He's better than Khabib.
I think he's pretty substantially better than Khabib.
He's got them hands, boy.
He can box. Khabib could not box. Like, Khabib could not have stood with Dustin Poirier they stood for a good bit of that fight. Yeah. Khabib would have been slept if he was on his feet for that long. And Islam hits hard. He's a good boxer. He's clean. And he's just as good of a wrestler and submission artist as Khabib is.
You saw what he did to Volk. Saw what he did to Volk.
And
he head kicked that mug.
But even more than that, like even more than he's better in this area, he's better in that area. Look at who they beat. It's not even comparable.
Yeah, that's true.
Khabib didn't beat hardly anybody worth a darn. Like, he really didn't. And Islam has beat Charles Oliveira,
right?
Alexander Volkanovski twice, Dustin Poirier. Like,
that's true.
To me, it's not even close. And I get it. Khabib was like the guy. So many people know him because of the Conor fight. Conor's been overrated forever. Conor was never really that good.
Stop it.
At that point, he was not that good. You know he wasn't.
Stop.
Bro.
Give me Christian, I'm with you.
He's overrated. He
always was.
It was a perfect.
He's the most sellable UFC fighter of all time. Let it be that. That's fine. He's a Hall of Famer. He's a champion, double champ.
Was he incredible early in his career? Yes. By that point in his career, no, he was not incredible.
He was still champion.
No, he was not.
He was champion when they fought.
2018, no, he was not. 2018, he had been off for 2 years before that. October 2018 fight against Khabib, he hadn't fought in 2 years.
Okay, all right. I thought he was champion. My bad.
The only person that he has beat since 2018 is Cowboy Cerrone. Come on,
dude. By the way, can we admit that Dana is a war criminal for putting Cowboy out there for that damn fight? Oh my God, that's nasty work, disgusting work.
Yeah, but Dustin did what he could, man. I'm a big Dustin Poirier fan, and it like I loved it because you could just tell there were moments where he was like that kind of Lafayette Street kind of came out in him, where it was like by any means necessary. If I have to like frog turtle my ass out of this ankle pick, I'm out of here. Right? Like this man put his knees up into his chest and just went boom. Like honestly, it was awesome. His takedown defense was great, really good.
He stuffed everyone in the fourth round, didn't he?
Yeah, dude.
In the second round, he was other than the one at the last 10 seconds. But I mean, there's not anybody else that's stuffing takedowns against these Dagestani wrestlers. They don't, and he stuffed a lot of takedowns. Other than the first round, the 3.5 minutes or whatever control time in the first round,
it's just so hard to control the fight. If you're gonna beat Islam, you have to try to control the fight, and I don't know if there's anybody in the UFC or anybody close to his weight that can do that.
Well, the thing about them is there is zero, and I mean zero, margin for error. You cannot mess up. If you mess up, you're done. Like you have to fight literally a flawless.
But even when he's leaning on you and just messing with your legs, he's taking energy out of you. He's controlling the fight, and I don't know. It's just like you're worried about your legs the entire time. They're not worried in the slightest. They can just fight their fight. You have to you cannot dictate the fight. There's no way you can.
I don't see a path to beating him unless someone just lands one lucky clean shot and knocks him out.
But then you'd have an immediate run back of that.
And then he would win.
Probably so.
Because you know he ain't getting slept twice.
Volkanovski was the closest anyone was going to get, and then Dustin was second. I mean, Dustin pushed him in that fight. It's hard for me to see. Arman Sarukian's the only one left in the division. It's hard for me to see Arman beating him anywhere once again, unless he gets a.
That'd be fun. I think that would be a decent fight, though. I
think it'll be fine, but I mean, Arman Sarukian got controlled on the ground by Charles Oliveira, and Islam smashed Charles Oliveira. So I don't see a path to any 55er beating him. Maybe if he goes up to 70, someone can give him a run for his money just by being bigger, but it's hard for me to see him losing any fights.
All right, in the post-fight press conference, they were asking about Islam to Dana White. Dana White was up there at the podium, and he said that someone asked about him being the pound-for-pound best fighter in the world. Dana said, if you have any conversation about pound for pound while John Jones is still active and you don't have John Jones as number one, you don't deserve to be making rankings and doing all that kind of stuff. Do you guys agree with that? Is John Jones's inactivity counted against him in that regard?
I 100% agree. I don't care if Islam's active. I mean, John Jones has beat a murderer's row of some of the greatest guys of all time. And I know it's not recent. But guess what? He still hasn't lost. He took 3 years off, went up a weight class, and beat the best guy in the division.
He beat the hell out of the guys that he's fighting now, who their dads watched. Dads watched the guys that he beat the hell out of back in the day.
He's pound for pound king.
Never lost. I mean, good God, man! As long as he's still in, I agree with him. I do think activity means something, but I think John Jones is too stamped for me to give a damn about his activity.
Agreed. All right, boys. Well, let's wrap it up. We appreciate you guys for joining us this week. If you're watching on YouTube, you can like, subscribe, and comment there. And if you're listening, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, you can do all the same things. There, you can also head over to bluffcitymedia.co. Check out all the articles, videos, and podcasts from everybody on the site. Once again, we appreciate you guys for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.
Thank you for listening to On the Bluff. If you enjoyed this episode, leave a rating and a review wherever you download your podcasts. Also, like and subscribe to Bluff City Media's YouTube page. Head over to www.bluffcitymedia.co for comprehensive coverage of Memphis sports and how you can become an insider.